Hey, it's Paula Nutting, part of the Supercharged Therapists, and we are having a wonderful day today because this is my second fabulous interviewee, and this is with Tricia Hughes, who I would happily say that is a friend, I would like to think. We have been involved together in the industry with Trish for 16 years, since, you said 2003, yeah?
2003, yep.
Tell us about your journey.
Oh, where to start?
Where did you start from? Because we first got you in as a massage, we had 6 or 7 different state-based things all amalgamating into one.
Yeah. There was 5 originally out of something like another 14 massage organisations in Australia. And my background is in social science, strangely enough, but I've always been involved in not-for-profit associations, and I, at the time, was with a very large international association. I wanted something smaller, something easier that was probably New Start, because I like to get on and get things sorted. And so I came across in 2003 in September. They had 5 associations that they half amalgamated, half not amalgamated. Some really good people, really good, well-meaning people, but just didn't understand the structure of what needed to be done, and run a company limited by guarantee. So I came across it as a bit of a challenge and a clean-up girl to get things sorted. And it was interesting at the time because there was some organisations had staff, some didn't have staff, and were purely volunteer. So there was 5 different methods of bookkeeping. There was 5 different ways of doing records, rules, and it was really difficult to just go, and because everybody thought this was the best. Everybody had the best ideas and the best way of doing things. And not to say that they weren't right, but to get a group of different organisations to come onto the same platform, you just had to go, all right, we're going to take the best practice out of each and every one of you, and that'll be the new set of rules.
Yeah.
So effectively, that's what I did. Quite painful. But the value in that, it's a new level playing field for everybody, but everybody's had some acknowledgement in that process.
Yeah. I do remember having like that head chopping, head huntering kind of. I was with the QAMT at the very small, that's Queensland, the QA.
As registrar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing the first stages, and there were people who had their noses out of joint and all sorts of things. But to have a look at the association 16 years down the track, I'm really proud of where we've come from.
It's been a long journey, and I think in the early days, the biggest criticism was that I wasn't a therapist, and that didn't bother me any. I didn't need to be. I had something like, at the time, 4,500 experts amongst the membership who were therapists. And, you know, I've got a saying, never try and be something you're not. And the board at the time wanted to put me through a massage course, and I couldn't think of anything worse in my whole life than going around touching people. I went like, no, not doing it, no way. And probably the best decision I made, because once you start something and you have a practice and you have a way of doing something, you then create a bias. You can't not have a bias about the way you do things. You can always challenge that bias, but then you have it. So it didn't bother me whether you wanted to call yourself soft tissue masseuse, masseur, remedial therapist. It didn't matter what you called yourself, because I had no personal investment in that.
Yeah.
So it made it easier to keep the wheels clean as we ticked over the years of trying just to streamline everything without getting people's noses out of joint.
Yeah. So your passion is really governance, procedures, processes.
Yeah, I'm a governance nerd. Give me a good form, I love it. Piece of legislation, love it. It is governance, and it's one of these things, and it's the same principles for business. If you try and build it too quickly without putting the platform in place, it will fall over. It's inevitable. And I used to have a teacher many years ago who said, in my first secretarial course that I did, that said, you know, there's no shortcut in administration. And as boring and as dull as some people find it, she's absolutely right, because it'll come back to bite you.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. So how long did, I remember we sat down and went through the massage, well, AAMT, Australian Association of Massage Therapists, who are now, proudly to say, Massage Myotherapy Australia. So we've done it. When did we do our core values? Because I remember we sat down and worked through what the association, what our values were.
There was a mission statement and not so much core values, but a feel in those early days. But we really didn't get into that level of really good governance until about 2010. And that was because we had a board of 12 originally, so it was 2 people nominated from each state committee. People joined the state committees and then they were nominated to the board. And it just wasn't a particularly fair process, and it wasn't a process that was representative of the whole membership base. It was basically whoever stuck their hand up really got to the board. And so we changed that process down to one from each division of membership. I shouldn't say state, because some of them, like New South Wales ACT, and formed a board of 9. And from there moving forward, it became easier because there was less factions. I mean, I remember people would meet, because it took us 2.5 days to hold a meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And people would have a discussion in the meeting, and then they'd go to their hotel rooms at night, and the next day the whole rules had changed. And so and it wasn't a malicious way of doing things. It's just that people had their state-based biases and they wanted to keep them. So by changing the constitution, by changing the structure of the board, it gave us that freedom to go through and make a whole new change, particularly with the constitution, just to make the board more representative of the total membership, you know, not just people who were pushing agendas at the time. It was pretty significantly unpleasant changing that constitution, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a little bit of pain. And when you look at how we've come out the other side of that, the values have got set. You know, we stick to them. We now build them into every strategic plan that we have. We build them in the way we do day-to-day business.
Yeah.
And that's what gives strength to what we do. And it pulls the board and the committees back into line when they get off on some creative tangent and go, that's not why we're here. That's not what we agreed to do.
Yeah. I like the fact that we have both elected and appointed, and I think that having people that we can appoint gives a skill set for the board as for the association moving forward. So I think that has really stepped up the capacity for this association to grow strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. I'm jumping around the core values because I want. What's your thoughts on what therapists values that they can't live without? What should a therapist, in your mind, find value like in their practice? I know this is a really curly question because you're not a practitioner.
Look, I'm not, but I think, and it's also one of the association's values, and whether you implement that with staff or yourself, and that's always to act with integrity. And you can put that into practice. If you've got a client, for example, that you've been treating and it's not moving forward, it's your professional integrity to go, I've got 2 issues here. One I can't help. So if I can't help, what do I do? Do I move, suggest or find somebody else that perhaps can help that person and they'll come back to me for something else? Or do I actually go and learn more about this so that I can help this client? So that's the integrity, not just to keep going through the same thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and as much as people dislike doing it, is record keeping.
Yes.
Not only is it essential for protecting yourself and protecting the client in the event that something goes wrong, and it does go wrong, it's an integral record of your integrity that you went through the due process of assessing, treatment plan, implementing, reassessing. You can't do without it. These are the fundamentals of practice, and it's often the shortcuts that get taken before. And as I said before, you take a shortcut and it comes back to bite you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was talking to Michelle Fasalo, And her big thing is research. And the whole deal about that record keeping, you can build case studies. So we can actually start to work at a professional level that is a cumulative knowledge just by doing simple things like record keeping that goes into, you take enough of the right recordings, you get a case study value. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Integrity seems to be, and for me, I also think of value is to recognise that we have faults, that we have a baseline that we can work, and an area that we can't work to. So, counselling is not cool. Like,
no, don't
work without out of your scope.
Change the towels, bottom towel. Don't flip it over. They're the sort of values of, and yes, it all takes time and it all costs money, but having that integrity and respect is the other one, which is also another association value. Having the respect for your client, that if that was you lying on a bed, you'd hope that you were lying on a clean towel.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Top of tailing is not cool.
It's not on, no.
And especially right now with COVID and that process where people can and can't. And I'm actually going to, we'll talk about that now. How do you think we can manage ourselves as massage therapists in this industry currently with COVID-19 as a global pandemic?
Look, I think to take it out of its box, it's certainly something a lot of people wouldn't have seen. Like any kind of crisis where the government starts telling us what we do and don't have to do. I think the last one that I was involved in would have been SARS, and I was actually still flying at the time. And they sprayed us as we came off the planes. And before that, it was like the Cold War between the US and Russia, where we actually started to feel that kind of threat. And a lot of people haven't been exposed to any kind of threat like that, which creates a panic. And so I think a lot of practitioners, once they were told don't practice by the health department, it was, how do I find a loophole so that I can still do this?
Yeah.
And that has its inherent problems, because some people could remain practicing, some people couldn't. It just depended on what state you were in, what that local health department said, how you actually work. Now, you might only have 4 clients, and because you're retiring and you've got time to do the full thorough disinfection and all that, great. You might have an elderly parent at home and be a single mother and not advisable to practice. And what we found was that therapists were saying, what do I have to do? Tell me what to do. Should I open? Should I close? Can I practice? And it really comes down to everybody's single practice and how they run it, their client base, not their financial situation. And I'm happy to talk about that separately, but almost like you have to make an informed decision. And if you can't make an informed decision, then you follow what the health department tells you to do.
Yeah.
And I think in a broader context, Australians aren't used to being told what to do by our government.
No, at all. But that's where the colony. That's why we ended here in the first place.
We don't like it. I'm not doing that. How the dear tell me do that? But and the signs today, at the end of this month, have indicated that maybe these experts in health that are actually, like ministers in health, the chief medical officer actually know something about what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we're seeing it flatline.
And we're very good at it, because I think mates look after mates. We tend to go, well, if it's not so good for me, but I'm a bit worried that it might affect somebody else, I might actually transmit it to somebody. Yeah. And I think that's the I guess the mental play that they've used. If it's not about you, it's about somebody else. So, can't do that, mate. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it works beautifully in this country. Maybe not so well in other countries, where it's more, I have the right to do whatever I want to do. And you can see that there's no flatlining in some of the countries that are more me-focused, where the other countries that are generally more you-focused are doing quite a lot better. And you said, I'm happy to touch on finance. What's your, because I agree, it shouldn't be about finance, not given that it, well, for Australia, for a start, those people who are listening to this podcast, we're getting government support. And in Canada, they're getting financial support, but a lot of countries aren't.
Mm. And, you know, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take it in any form of financial advice. But it goes to show you that if you don't make some plan of worst case scenario, whether it's pandemic, whether you break both your wrists in a bicycle accident, and you can't practice for some time, what have you got to fall back on? And it, you know, the first rule of being an owner operator is, as soon as you possibly can, put 3 months worth of what costs you to live away in the bank account and don't touch it, because you don't know, you know, like this, what's around the corner. And it would create a lot less stress for people if they had some kind of plan. Whether you never have to implement it, fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you do, you've then got an opportunity to support yourself for a period of time until you can get, you know, something sorted out. There was a lot of people who, you know, do I do job seeker or job keeper? Again, it depends on your, you know, your personal situation. And as an association, you can't get involved in it, in each individual business. You know, there's 8,500 of them, and it's not our role to. It's practitioners' business. They have to be informed. And I was talking to a psychologist friend, and she said, "Oh, it was so stressful because they're now accepting them on telehealth, and I had to be informed about what telehealth was about and how to run it." And it goes to show you, you don't have to be, you know, an expert in social welfare or the health department, but if you keep informed about some of the choices that you possibly could have if something was to go wrong, and you prepare for that, and you can never prepare for to the nth degree.
No,
it takes some of the pressure away, and once that pressure's taken away, it's gone, okay, I can't do that, but I can review all the policies in the business. I can, you know, I've always wanted to know more about the, you know, the biomechanics of the hand. I'll do that online. You know, there's a whole heap of stuff that people could then be doing instead of stressing and worrying about financial situations.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that's out there right now that's free. They've reduced the cost, like where it did have a cost, now there's no cost. A lot of courses out there that people can actually take advantage of. So that's a beautiful point. And the other, that is a strong point, that most people in this day and age live from pay packet to pay packet. They don't actually think, put a tithe away, which is, I think, the richest man in Babylon, that whole idiom of put 1/10 of your income away and lock it in. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And it's a hard one, but you'll find the people that have survived through this, and we can expect, you know, some people not to have maintained their businesses through this, have found other ways of doing things, of keeping themselves informed. And I stay well away from social media and the hysteria of it, but if the time people spent on that was spent on working on their business or how to do a proper P&L statement, they'd know better, you know, their chances of survival and what they actually need to do once their business starts up again.
Yeah, so take this as words of wise wisdom from my dear friend Tricia Hughes. This is the perfect time to go through, if you're doing the certification model, because I know someone else, I know that a couple of people are doing the cert model, that they're now going through and looking at the writing up the policies and procedures, you know, how you do with minors, how you do with vulnerable people. Like, there's perfect opportunities to do things that are free, that are only time exhaustive. So what do you think massage will be in the next 10 years?
Well, it's interesting that, you know, not just massage, but everything in our time and space is moving faster now than it ever has done. And what used to be a standard business cycle of, you know, sort of 8 years, that then got reduced to about 5. And at the moment, things are changing 3 yearly. You know, technology makes things so much easier for us in some ways and a lot more complicated in others. So it's, I don't think anything will ever replace a good set of hands and good communication skills, because they're inherent things that you need to be a good practitioner. But I think people need to become more informed about their business, They need to become more informed about what the public expect of them, how the government runs, how the health system runs within that. And I'm not talking about going and, sort of really studying it hard, but a lot of the answers to the questions, why can't we have this, why can't we do that, are basic fundamentals in these areas. And the consequences of things that you wish for, that, say, I want to be allied health. Okay, what does it involve to actually get that? Quite a bit. It means changing the Health Act and having massage recognised as a health service. But you need to appreciate that once you do that, you won't be paying just a $200-300 membership fee for an association plus your insurance. Your insurance will go up, and you'll probably be paying like a $2,000 registration fee just to be able to say, I've got a title that says I know what I'm doing. And I think there's a lot of therapists out there that know what they're doing without needing a title.
We have very, very, very good practitioners in this industry that
we do.
That right down to, like, you don't have to have completed a degree or an advanced diploma to be an excellent therapist. You have to have ongoing training and self-training, that you recognise where your scope is and where if you feel weak in an area, how you're going to educate yourself. I would see, and you hear that over and over and over again. Clients come in and say, I'm going to see you over other people, other AHPRA registered practitioners, because I get results from your treatment where I can't necessarily get results from theirs. So the title is not, it's a two-edged sword in my view.
No, and a lot of people spend time comparing themselves to other practitioners and when are we going to be accepted and when are we not. And, not everybody's in that same boat. It's very much an individual relationship, and it's no different in any other health sphere, because you go to a general practitioner and you might need a hip replacement. He will send you to his colleague. He may not send you to the best person to do that hip replacement for you. Yeah. That's how referral works. We keep our mates in business. So if that's the situation you're in, it's incumbent then to do your research to go, well, is that the best surgeon? And if for you in the hospital that you want, and if it's not, then you go back to your GP and you say, no, I want a referral somewhere else. And this is what the public are now doing. They're becoming more informed and taking more control over their health. And so if I'm told to go and see a therapist because they're really, really good, and I don't get that intuitive connection with them because, you haven't even asked me what surgeries I've had or what problems there are. You just plot me on the table. I'm not going back.
Yeah. Wow.
You're not interested in my health. So I think moving forward, it's less focusing on what, gaining this and let the association work on informing the public. We do that, in the promotion in clinics and stuff. But it's the old saying, I can get you the interview, but I can't get you the job.
Yes, 100%.
So
it's really interesting with all this drama with COVID and therapists that have been away from the industry for some of us for weeks and weeks and weeks. How do you think that they're going to manage our physical selves as much as our mental selves coming back in to start treating full time?
Look, I think when you reintroduce anything after a long break, I think, people often want to go at it like a bull at a gate, and it's, particularly therapists, because over the last few weeks we've heard a lot of people go, not only do my clients need me, I need my clients. So obviously the first thing is a reassessment of boundaries.
100%,
really reassess your boundaries with some and reflect on whether perhaps I have got a little bit loose around some clients. Now's the perfect time to sort of reassess that and take it slowly. If you normally have a book of 6 people, just do 3 in the first week, every day. Don't just bollock in, and try and keep observing, to a degree, some of the new health regimes and hygiene regimes that you've had to put in place. Because in principle, basic hygiene is really an element of good practice.
So I know that we've been doing, like for therapists, I've been trying to advise to make sure that they continue with the use of antiseptic wipes, wipe the door handles, make sure that they wipe the chairs, wipe your pens if people once they're using the pens to sign for high caps, etc. I removed all of the extra protective covers from my clinic table, my plinth, and now I'm thinking, I don't know whether I will actually put those back on, because right now, completing a therapist, like a treatment, I'm spraying with Glen 20 and or using wipes.
Yep.
So I think that they're things that shouldn't change when we come back to working again. We should actually be maintaining those self-practices.
Yeah, and Michelle's a classic for this one, Michelle Vassallo. You know, your body as you practice, how do you then get it back into and prepared to be standing at a table? You know, all of a sudden your back's going to be hurting. All of a sudden a whole range of different things, your shoulders, your elbows, your hands are going to be hurting. You know, have you taken time to eat properly at small intervals, to keep sugars up, all those sort of things are really important and shouldn't, you know, if something's been a bad habit, like you've avoided eating your lunch or you haven't been taking your notes, now's the time to change it. Yeah.
Aaron Bright discusses us as practitioners that we're like an elite athlete. So you should be treating your body like an elite athlete. You should be doing, whether it's strength and conditioning, flexibility, nutrition, health, and mental wellness. So put those back into your practice.
Yep.
Yeah.
They say mental wellness starts in the gut, don't they?
Yeah, they do now. Exactly. So I've been asking a few of the other people that I've spoken to what their thoughts on mentorship, because for me it's a bit of a burning flame. I'm hoping that there's some way, capacity that the people that are more experienced can actually assist those who haven't been in the industry for so long. As Whitney was talking about, we have such a short education, academic portion and long work lifestyle that we probably need to have ongoing help from people that we respect. So what does mentorship look like to you?
Look, I think a lot of people confuse mentorship with telling what people, what to do. And it's not. It's about guiding people towards making an informed decision for themselves. If people aren't happy with, perhaps they've got a particular client base they don't like, how do I get rid of them? Those sort of things. It's like, well, let's take a step back on that and discover why you don't want to be working with that group of people. And I think mentoring is more about challenging people and asking them questions to actually touch base with some of the values and misbeliefs and a whole range of other things that they hold, to challenge why they think that way and what do they believe they can do to change it. Now, Jeff Shearer is one of the best people who talks on this all the time as a practitioner. And he's got it's not advertising, but he's got some great resources there that you can just use even if you're not a practitioner on, I really don't like this job. Why don't I like it? Am I just fed up? Am I tired? Do I need to stand back from it? And a whole range of things like that. So, and I think with asking for mentorship in particular techniques, unless you're prepared to get a fundamental understanding of a technique, you can't do the quick fix. So I can't come and say to you, I'm really interested in Chapman's. Can you just show me one or two things? Just as a bit of a mentoring session. Mentoring comes after the education, not before it. Yes. Not before it. So mentoring would then be, off topic, I went and learned online because I needed something to do, how to make gluten-free sourdough bread. I am amazed at how you can actually do this when I'm not making feta cheese. And it was, so we did the online course. We all have to go out and buy our organic flours and this and that and everything else like that and make a batch. And the woman who led the session said, I will now be online at 2 o'clock on Saturday for anybody who's got any problems or anybody who wants to discuss how they've done their sourdough.
Amazing.
That's mentoring. That's not telling people how to do it. I've got to go and make all the mistakes with my organic flour and throw it in the bin or feed it to the birds or whatever it turns out to be before I can go and get mentored.
Yeah, yeah. That's absolute gold, because that is exactly what it's all about. It's being the hand to hold when someone has got questions to ask with regards to their failing. Yeah.
Yep. And, and find somebody you're comfortable with, not because they've got a name or a title or they're the biggest person out there in the industry, because may not be the best person for you.
Yeah, yeah. So in closing, because I don't want to take too much of your time, but you've been instrumental with Massage Myotherapy Australia, and you have been a mentor to me in many instances, and probably me to you in the occasional feedback sessions. Any parting words that aren't 4-letter? I'm kidding.
Oh, look.
What are you going to do with your life now? What's the next 10 years of Tricia Hughes look like?
Look, I've got no qualms about telling people I'm 58 this year. And as you know, the association's been very good to me. I've had some major surgeries and health issues over the years. And it's time for me to invest a lot of time in myself and my health. Yeah. And find something, since I've moved to regional Victoria, where I can contribute probably on a part-time basis. So as much as I'd love to be full steam ahead, I know my body just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And accept that change, accept that not disability, but that lack of ability, and how I modify that. And, invest in my local community a lot more than, being a CEO running around basically 24/7.
Yeah, yeah, nationally and internationally, because you have been doing all of that. Well, Tricia, it's been an honour to be working beside you.
Yep.
We've done a couple of roles on the board together. We've
you must have done 7 or 8 years.
Been around for a while.
Ethics, education committees,
research.
Chair, president, research, and that's part of it. There's a lot of people that go, I don't have the time to do that, or the association's only as strong as the therapists that invest in it.
Yeah, and we've got some amazing therapists out there, and we've got some amazing staff, and it works together. Yep. Good luck on your journeys. We all wish you the best.
Thank you.
And I know it's been a ride.
Yeah, the roller coaster without the cart.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Tricia Hughes.
Thanks, Paula.